everybody. We're going to talk about journaling today, and I've invited my friend Alana here because she's a writer. She's also a mentor and a meditation teacher in training, but she really has a lot of wisdom about writing. And so what I have found, why I want to talk about journaling in relationships, is that a lot of times there are things going on in our relationship that we really have a hard time pinpointing. It can be a tool when we're having a fight to work through, but I find it to be really valuable when there's stuff under the surface that we can't quite figure out what's going on. And as we're talking about creating quiet to reflect on our relationships and get help with our relationships, I really want to talk about journaling as a tool because it helps you get under that layer, because it helps you to create quiet. So Alana, can you talk a little bit about creating quiet and what that can look like with journaling?
Absolutely. So number one, I really recommend that you get a physical journal, because what that does is it allows you to create an actual physical space to find that quiet and to allow your truth to kind of spill forth onto the page.
And so a lot of people have journals, have beautiful journals, but because they're so pretty, they feel like whatever they're putting in here has to be, this perfect text, this thing that they can keep for posterity, right? And when we're sifting through our thoughts, none of it is pretty usually, none of it is eloquent, it's pieces of sentences. What can people do to kind of overcome this feeling of this needs to be as pretty as my journal?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing is to let go of the expectation that it needs to be anything but you getting clear on what's true for you in the moment. So what I like to do, for example, I'm a recovering perfectionist myself, is I come to the journal, take a few breaths right down to my belly so I can feel myself get grounded, and I might say a mantra like, I'm here to speak my truth. I invite myself to be a loving witness to what's true for me right now, so that I'm crystal clear on the intention of me coming to the page.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then would you say, how do you actually start the writing? Because some of us have been practicing journal writing, that comes easy, but for someone who's completely new to this process, what would you say would be helpful ways to just start writing?
One of two things. One of them is to trust your hand to simply move on the page for a specific amount of time. I would say at least 10 minutes. You may be surprised at what you find. There's truth within us that's often hidden beneath the fear. And once we simply give ourselves permission to let what's true for us spill on the page, that's when we really allow ourselves to get in touch with that. If you find yourself kind of paralyzed and not knowing where to start, the freebie that I'm offering in the description will give you some prompts. Find what resonates with what you're going through and allow that to give you some structure to start writing.
Mm-hmm. And another tip that I'm just thinking of that for me has always been helpful. Sometimes the journal was almost paralyzing, like we're talking about, that it's, too perfect. And I have found and especially if you're working through an issue with a partner that's living with you, where you're afraid that if you're putting this on a page, he might find it. And so another way to approach this, I would say, is that find a regular piece of paper, write out all that you need to spill, and then once you're done and you can read over it and you can get the information from it, put it through the shredder. and know that this is safe, that it's gone, but it allows you to have the process of putting the work out without the fear that someone's going to find it. Because sometimes with the journals, we are not quite willing to put everything on paper because we're afraid that someone's going to find it. So maybe get a journal with a lock on it too, just so you're truly certain that you can work through what's going on for you, right? Yeah. So is there anything else you want to talk about in terms of just the quiet of that journaling gives you? What do we truly take away from it when we once we've put these things on paper?
So you're training yourself to become a loving witness to your own experience. So often in relationships, we become so judgmental of how we're being in them that we feel stuck. We feel like we can't make a change. But by allowing yourself to journal, you're giving yourself the time and space to really honor what's true for you, and that will bleed into every area of your life.
Can you maybe just give us an example of how in your own relationship, with your partner, maybe with your parents, whatever is going on in your life, in your personal relationships, how has it supported you?
It's allowed me to feel safe with my own humanity, especially with anger. As someone who has a tendency to people please, I had struggled with so much resentment of not feeling like my truth has been heard and not feeling like I really have a place in my relationship. So it's just allowed me to just get messy, just write a litany of expletives and I hate you and all of this that we have inside. And it's not necessarily that I'm going to tell anyone that, but it allows me to feel safe expressing the raw truth of what I feel.
Yeah, and not judge it, not edit it, really let it out, so that what it really helps with once you've put that out is that you can come then to a conversation with your partner without venting all this anger, because you've already done it. And you can actually step back and look at how you're feeling and then go and be much more composed and talk about your feelings versus reacting to your partner, storing up the feelings, right? Because if we never let them out, then they're going to come out eventually. So the paper, the journal is a really wonderful place to put that without hurting anyone, but finding a space to have it, a sacred space to truly be honest how you feel.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Alana. I really appreciate you being here. So as she mentioned, she has a freebie that you can download under this video that gives you some tips on how to start journaling and how to work through your emotions. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
And I'm Selena from Empowered Living Strategies, to your happiness and transformation.